All right, what did you miss when you were absent? We went over what was skipped on the 7.1 lesson video. Went through the rest of the ratios here. We're looking at trombones to trumpets. So when we look up here, we're going to see we have 16 trombones, okay? And then we have trumpets. We have 40 trumpets. So we're going to want to, I'm just going to do one of the three ratio setups, just going to do the fraction form. We're going to have trombones, which was 16, to trumpets, which was 40. We want to make sure that we simplify this, and to simplify that, we find the biggest number that can be divided into 16 and 40, and we found out that we can divide both of these by 8, and therefore we come down to our ratio being 2/5. When we moved over to the flutes versus total instruments, we see here that our flutes, looking back up in our example, we had 51 flutes. Again, I'm just going to do this in the fraction form. 51 flutes to the total number of instruments, and we had learned in the other video, sorry it keeps blurring, let me get that focus, that our total instruments were 170. So we had 51 over 170. Most people are going to look at this and think this is simplified. In fact, this can be simplified. They can both be, 51 and 170 can both be divided by 17. I know it's a little hard to see there, but when we divide 51 by 17, we get 3. 170 divided by 17 gives us 10. Our ratio simplified would be 3:10. We moved down to number 3. In the video, we talked about how it's going to be just like number 2. It's just now we're dealing with ratio instead of an extended ratio, and we're dealing with complementary angles. I helped you out with, we need to set this equal to 90 degrees. So what we have here is we have the ratio of the two angles of 3 to 7. What we need to remember here is that this ratio right here of 3 to 7 is not the actual angle measurements. We want to find them. This 3 to 7 is simplified. It is reduced. So if we go back up to here, that's that 2/5. The 2 to 5 was simplified from the 16 to 40. 16 to 40 was original. We divided by the same number to get our simplified ratio. Now we need to go the opposite direction. The 3 to 7 is the simplified. We need to do the opposite and multiply them both by the same number to get our original numbers. So when we go back down here, when we multiply by that number, we don't know what number it is. So in math, when we don't know a number, it's an unknown, we use a variable. So we use the letter x. So what we know here is we're going to have 3, that first number in the ratio there, times an unknown number. And when we add that to our other angle, the 7 times, again, that unknown number, the same unknown number, this will create our original angle measurements that in turn will then add up to equal that 90 degrees. So here, very quickly, simply solve for x, combine my like terms to get me 10x equals 90, divide both sides by that 10, x will equal 9. We want to find our measurements. So our smallest angle is going to be the smaller of the two numbers. So if I ask you for the smallest angle measurement, you pick the 3, because that's the smaller number of 7 and 3. So then we just take that 3x, now that we know what x is, we substitute it in to find our original angle measurement. So substitute that 9 in, and we find out that our smaller angle is going to be 27 degrees. We will do the same thing for the other angle, the larger of the two, but now we have the 7x. So we substitute in that 9, and we find out that this will be 63 degrees. We double check, make sure these two numbers should add up to equal 90 degrees. If they do not, then take it one step at a time backwards. Did we add these numbers correctly? Yes, we did, but we still didn't get 90. Okay, go back here. Did we multiply these correctly? If so, then we go back to, we solve for x incorrectly, and we need to go back and fix that problem. Okay? The next thing we talked about with the proportions, dealing with our proportions, are going to be two ratios in fraction form that are set equal to each other. This will give us opportunities to figure out if later on, if two triangles are similar, we can figure out a missing side of a polygon. Real life, we can figure out, if I know how tall the Eiffel Tower is, and I can use proportions to figure out how long the shadow is at a given time. So you'll see stuff like this later on. A was skipped, and so let's go ahead and talk about that. We need to go ahead. This is going to be the most simple proportion problem that you will see. You have your proportional setup, what I call it, your fraction bar equal fraction bar. You have 4 spots, 2 numerators, 2 denominators. In these 4 spots, 3 have a number, 1 has just an X. So this is going to be the easiest one that we do, because it's simply, you're going to notice it's going to be a multiply and divide situation. I'm going to start with my X, 6 times X. It's going to give me 6X. We will set that equal to the other cross product, the 4 times the 21. Now you can either write 4 times 21 over here, or you can just go ahead and do the multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and just complete that multiplication, giving us 84. Okay, so now I have my cross product property, got my equation. All I have is 6x equals 84. Divide, solve for x. Divide by 6, both sides. X is going to equal 14. Okay. B was done on the video. So let's take a look at C, another distribution we're going to have here. A couple different things you can do. You'll see more videos later where we see that we can actually simplify one of these ratios so that we can deal with smaller numbers. So if you look here, we find out that we can actually divide 12 and we can divide 18 by 6. So we can simplify this to 2 over 3. And how that's going to help is now instead of having to multiply 12 times 15, we can multiply 2 times 15. You don't have to do that if you do not want to. So here again, I'm going to start where my variable is. Now this, when we do this, we have to remember that our whole numbers, or our number is going to go outside the parentheses. Right here I have 2 terms. I have the 3x as one term plus 4 as another term. That has to go on the inside of your parentheses. You do not have an option on that one. Okay. Then we will set this equal to, let's find our other cross product. Instead of 12 times 15, because I simplified this fraction over here, I just have my 2 times 15, which gives me 30. Now the distribution, which you saw, we should have seen in the original video. This 3 needs to distribute to the 3x, parentheses meaning multiplying. So 3 times 3 gives me 9 x's. Do not forget, please draw the arrows. Even as a teacher, when I do my own work, I always draw the arrows so I don't make that mistake of forgetting about that plus 4. It is not 9x plus 4. Do not forget that 3 on the outside also has to be distributed to the plus 4. So since it's a positive times a positive, I will get plus 12. And that will all be equal to this 30 over here. Okay? And I'll kind of switch colors so you guys can see those steps. Now we have 9x plus 12 equals 30. So first things first, subtract that 12 from both sides. Okay? And then we're going to bring down that 9x equals 30. 30 minus that 12 is going to give me 18. Last step, 9x equals 18. Divide both sides by what's attached to that variable so that those 9's cancel out, leaving me with nothing but x on the left. 18 divided by 9 will give you 2 as your final answer.